Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Jay Encarnacion, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're thrilled to have Mauricio Mendoza, the founder and CEO of Bixli. Mauricio brings over 25 years of expertise in web development, having founded SiteShop in 1996 and Bixli in 2023. Based in Wilmington, North Carolina, Bixli is transforming how businesses grow online through client acquisition systems like Core Loop System and accessibility solutions like Core Access System. With a strong focus on digital inclusion and compliance with global regulations like the upcoming European Accessibility Act. We'll be exploring his founding story, how Bixli empowers clients, and his vision for scaling this mission-driven venture. With that being said, let's dive right in. Mauricio, welcome to Founders Future.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Jay.
An absolute honor to have you on the show, Mauricio. So I would love to really start at the beginning for our listeners. If you can take us back there, what specific problem in the web consulting or accessibility landscape really inspired you to start Bixli?
We started as a generalist with a generalist approach, trying to solve the problem of overwhelm when it comes to online presence. But as we grew our business, we realized that the issue of accessibility really aligns well with the values of our company because many businesses assume that accessibility is a back burner issue, not something they need to focus on. But because of laws like the ADA in the US and the European Accessibility Act that comes in force in June 2025, US-based companies are really facing both a legal liability, it's a risk, but they're also not reaching a quarter of their market. So that is the problem that we're trying to help businesses overcome.
Incredible. So with that, obviously you've done so much, founded multiple businesses at this point, and have such a deep career in the space. Walk us through the nuts and bolts. I really would love for our listeners to get an inside look and really have an understanding of exactly what you're offering here. The core offer, if we had a listener that's tuning in right now when the episode airs and wants to come work with you at Bixli, how does that look? What is the customer journey and how is it structured for your clients when they come to you?
Sure. So our core offer today is the core access system. It's a customized system that helps US companies understand how European regulations will affect them if they have a European presence, how the US regulations affect them. And we work with them systematically so that not only can they be compliant, but they can ensure that they have ongoing accessibility to within their company culture. So we really have systemized this so that there's no guessing, there's no trying to figure out, is this the next thing I should do? We, it's not about a checklist. Really, when it comes to accessibility, it's foundational. It should be something we're trying to reach because, in fact, 1 in 4 people have some sort of accessibility challenge when using your online presence. And so we want to be able to improve your access to 25% more people. And that's definitely that what you get when you work with us and the core access system.
I love it. So the core access system is really your go-to market, how you're helping businesses get that presence and really understand what that means to have presence. For our listeners on the show, I have so many different founders in the show that, and a big topic that I love to bring up is scalability. How are you approaching the idea of scalability with this type of business model, especially productizing your offer? How do you approach that side of things? How long does it take for an engagement? What does that look like as far as the picture that you're painted and scaling this business to that next level?
Sure. So with scalability, of course, we have to balance our one-on-one consulting efforts
Right.
with the practical implementation. But we have excellent expert partners that are able to help us with the delivery of solutions and we're ready to scale. We have plenty of others that are working with us that are through partnerships that allow us to be able to scale our solution infinitely.
Beautiful. So on that side, you have many partners that you're working with that help on the delivery and fulfillment side. Are you doing most of the sales and marketing side on your own, or do you also have a sales team, marketing team? As far as the process goes there, obviously you have those partners for fulfillment to help you there. How does that internal side of it look for sales and marketing?
We focused heavily on educating our clients. And so we're really focused on educating our clients on the need for addressing accessibility on their online presence. We also work with other partners like legal firms and other professional partnerships that help us to be able to help their customer base come to compliance with accessibility guidelines and conform to the WCAG standards. So through that and referrals from other clients, we've been really having great success and growing.
Oh, so for the acquisition side, that was what I wanted to get into a bit with you. I
Sure.
just mentioned those partners. So on that side there, as you just touched on, the biggest piece right now for you is referrals, right? So going back to that kind of scalability piece, is there something that you're doing now around marketing, talking about ads, social media, organic outreach to continue that scalability effort? What does that look like on the acquisition side for you?
Sure. On the client acquisition side, of course, we've developed the core loop system. So our core loop system is a systematic approach to direct outreach. And so with us, the way we've implemented the core loop system internally is we've selected certain paths for direct outreach. So for example, one of our main platforms is LinkedIn. We build a lot of professional relationships on LinkedIn. I think, in fact, Jay, that's how we
So
connected
we met.
beyond
Absolutely.
this podcast. So I believe that's a great way to make a meaningful contribution in posting because it's a business community. You're not just going for trends and fads. And we've actually made some very meaningful connections that have led to growth in our company. So we have that. And our core loop system, it's systematic in that when we do outreach, we're always measuring our results. We're very data driven, and that helps us to really be efficient as to where we put our efforts and how do we improve things. We're all about eliminating the guesswork out of our processes. And so, just like we do for our clients, we've implemented those same systems internally at Bixli, and that's what's helping us really fuel our growth.
I love that. There's so I mean nothing around ads just yet. Really utilizing that core loop system to the best of its ability to get that outreach going, nip things in the butt that aren't working well, and really take advantage of the things that are working well, but nothing around ads as of yet.
Absolutely. No. Yeah, we haven't seen the need for ads yet. Quite honestly, we do have a strategy for ads that we use with our clients, and it's very effective. But quite honestly, we've had a successful run just organically through partnerships and referrals and our direct outreach efforts that we haven't really needed it at this point. But we do have it queued up. When we're ready for that growth, that would be an area that we would invest in next.
You're just really having the pieces in place to know, okay, if we want to get there, turn that lever on, we can. But right now, what you have moving is working really well, which is incredible. With that being said, obviously have a really good understanding of the of what you're bringing to the table and how you're offering the system there and providing that accessibility. Talk to us about what you're thinking about, Mauricio, around the bottleneck side of things. Obviously, you've been in the game for quite some time now. When it
Sure.
comes to Bixley, the scalability, growing it, providing that quality. What are you thinking about right now as far as that bottleneck goes, whether it is lead gen or converting those leads or delivering on the fulfillment side? Talk to us there.
For us, really, Jay, our key bottleneck is simply awareness.
Mm,
Many US businesses haven't yet grasped that EAA compliance is not optional if they want to avoid legal and reputational risks, especially in the EU market. So we're stepping in to bridge that gap. We really want to inform the client base and really inform the business community as a whole to know what strategies they need to implement now in order to meet those guidelines and to continue to grow their businesses.
being able to, what do you think? is the biggest factor to getting that awareness to where you would be happy knowing? What do you think you can do to solve that issue?
Like I said, it's education because most people to think, how can I measure accessibility? But accessibility isn't something that can be scored with a single number. It's an ongoing process to ensure that as you make changes to your website, as platforms change, you're working, integrating other systems into your online presence. All of these are going to have an impact on how your online presence is presented to people with disabilities. And it takes ongoing effort. It's a cultural change. And so that's hard to measure with just a metric, like a number. You can say, hey, I have a click-through rate of 40%. That's something that businesses are used to. But with accessibility, you don't have that. The other thing is, very few businesses really understand the ROI behind accessibility. Because with an ad, you can measure accessibility. You can see, oh, yeah, 20% conversion, 30% conversion. I know how much money I've got in for that. Great. My ad spend was this. You can calculate through the math. But with accessibility, you're reaching a multi-billion-dollar market that's untapped, that's blocked. It's as if you're keeping them from walking in through your door if you don't address accessibility. And so that's the thing that we need to do to overcome, educate our clients to understand it's not just about a number, it's about being open and ready to grow your business in a way that is no longer optional.
Incredible there. So, I mean, what are your top priorities with everything that we have on the table now, knowing what you're trying to do and scaling it to that next level and having the ability to do? What are your top priorities for the rest of 2025, going into 2026? How do you plan on really making that impact and taking this to where you want it to be?
Over the next 6 to 12 months, focusing heavily on positioning Bixley as the go-to partner for US companies that have a European presence that need that EAA readiness, that European Accessibility Act readiness. The deadline is June 2025, but compliance takes time, and many companies come June 2025 are not going to be ready. So then it's just a ticking time clock before they're fined, before the authorities are going to penalize them for not being accessible. So we want to try to make sure that they're not caught off guard and that they have in place audits, remediation, and sustainable accessibility practices in place.
So really there is just goes back to that education piece, really continuing to get out there, leveraging your partners, tapping into that ad side of things if needed, and really just growing and getting in front of as many clients as you can to get this out there. Because so many businesses sounds like don't really know that the European Accessibility Act is even a thing right now.
That's right, Jay. Ignorance is our worst enemy.
Interesting. Interesting. So with that being said, the European Accessibility Act is effective June 2025. How do you see the accessibility and web consulting industry evolving with that act happening, with how long you've been in the space? What do you see the evolution of this space in the coming years, especially for US companies targeting international? How are you really positioning yourself to take advantage of that evolution?
Well, globally, we're seeing a shift where digital accessibility isn't just a compliance issue. It's a competitive differentiator for any business. Businesses that get ahead of the EAA or ADA requirements here in the US, they're not just avoiding penalties. They'll win customer trust and open up new markets. And that is the key shift that we're seeing in the industry.
Absolutely amazing. So, with that, I would definitely love to understand a bit more on the misconception side of things, right? As I mentioned, how long you've been in this space and how much experience you have. What is a misconception that you have often heard about that web consulting or accessibility industry, especially around its value to businesses or the importance of that compliance? Something that you can address for the listeners on that side.
I think one of the major misconceptions is that they can patch their website with a widget or an overlay and get instant accessibility, and they have to think about it no more. There's plenty of solutions around that thought, but it's really not what brings a digital presence to compliance. In fact, even the EU has stated that is not enough to bring you into compliance. And oftentimes, those are barriers for those that actually have disabilities to be able to use a website. Thinking that this is something that you can easily patch, that you have to spend as little as possible, it's a nuisance. That's really a major misconception that we need to overcome because, like I said, this is not just about compliance. It's about being a market leader, being a thought leader, and opening up to many new markets.
Amazing. So with that, I want to take us into the lightning round here. And on this side, I would really love just first thing that comes to mind. And first question for you on this side, Mauricio, what's a tool or a resource that you're using right now? Maybe it's a coding framework or an accessibility insight or an AI tool, but what's been a game changer this far for Bixley?
For Bixley, it's been implementing our own systems. I'm a big believer in you got to eat your own dog food. And as we've implemented our systems, we've really been able to optimize them and improve them and refine them so that they're in a better position to serve our clients. And that's really how the core access system came about. We needed to really focus on accessibility even for our site, because if we're going to bring accessibility to others, it would be hypocritical for us not to be focused on that. So we use our own internal tools in order to really refine them, improve them, prove their readiness for market, and then we're in a better position to help our clients.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And on this side of things, to finish us off, I want to hear just a bit on the advice side. Mauricio, what's the best piece of advice that you've personally received about scaling a mission-driven business, especially with how long you've been in the space doing it?
One of the best pieces of advice that I received was to not get easily distracted, but focus on your niche. And don't be afraid to make that niche as narrow as possible because sometimes by turning down business, you can actually grow your business further because you're more keenly focused and you have a better insight on how to serve that core market that you can address. And so that's what we've been doing. We started as a generalist agency with all sorts of marketing products. We are now focusing and we're very hyper focused on our accessibility efforts because we feel that is a very urgent need that is not being met right now.
Incredible. Just bringing what the market needs and being able to address it efficiently. That's a huge piece where all of our listeners should really be tuning in is you can start as one thing and start somewhere, but really be able to transform what you're doing for that market that you're trying to reach there. To finish us off here, Mauricio, I would love to hear a piece of advice that you can offer to our listeners tuning in. Again, with as much knowledge and drive and passion that you have and intelligence, what can you offer to our listeners right now before we wrap up the show?
If they're a US business, they need to address accessibility for their online presence, whether they have a presence in Europe or not. Regulations like the ADA, the June 2025 EAA deadline, all of these are critical factors in their business. And so everyone should care about accessibility, not just to avoid fines or legal risk, but because it's the right thing to do. It's how you engender trust and it's how you grow your business to new markets that are largely untapped and worth billions of dollars.
Amazing. With that right there, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Mauricio, I just want to thank you again. Incredible having you come on the show, share this incredible journey this far and your insights with us. And again, clear as day with the passion that you have, the drive, and just the wherewithal of what these clients need in the space. You're going to do some incredible things. So truly a pleasure having you on the show, breaking that down for us. I know you're going to hear some good things back after this episode airs. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, which I know so many of you have, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also check out Bixli at bixli.com to learn more about their core loop system and accessibility solutions. And follow Mauricio on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/MAUMEN. For more resources and insights, visit closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class marketing systems. Until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next one.